For centuries, we've basically treated nature like it was a free, all-you-can-eat buffet, an infinite resource. But what happens when the bill for that buffet finally comes due? Well, today, we're diving into a pretty revolutionary shift in business and finance that's trying to do just that, to finally put nature on the balance sheet.
It's a wild question, isn't it? I mean, really think about it. How do you actually put a dollar value on a forest, or the clean air it gives us, or all the life buzzing around inside it? This isn't just some philosophical thought experiment anymore. It's fast becoming one of the most urgent economic questions of our time.
All right, so here's how we're going to break it all down in this explainer. First, we'll look at why businesses are suddenly scrambling to account for nature. Then, we'll get into the complete mess this created, what we're calling metric mayhem. After that, we'll look at the unified framework designed to fix it all. We'll even peek inside at the core metrics they're using, and finally, wrap it up by talking about why any of this really matters for all of us.
So, let's get right into it. Why this sudden U-turn? Why is the corporate world all of a sudden trying to solve this puzzle of pricing a river? Well, the simple answer boils down to one word: risk.
For the longest time, the value of things like clean water, a stable climate, healthy ecosystems, all of that was just considered an externality. That's just a bit of accounting jargon for, hey, that's someone else's problem. A company could pollute a river, and that cost would never, ever show up on its financial statements. This created these massive hidden risks that are now, well, they're becoming totally impossible to ignore.
So once businesses started to wake up and realize they needed to measure their impact on nature, a whole new problem popped up. It's like everyone decided to invent their own ruler.
And the scale of this problem it's just mind-boggling. A survey in 2022 found that companies were using over 3,000 unique, disconnected metrics to report on nature. 3,000! It was just total chaos.
And of course, this chaos had very real consequences. I mean, how do you even define water use? Is it the same for a tech company as it is for a giant farm? Of course not. So without standards, you get inconsistent data. It became impossible for investors or even for you and me to compare one company's environmental footprint to another's, and there was no way to check if any of it was even true.
Okay, so out of all this metric mayhem, a global initiative finally emerged to create a common language, a Rosetta Stone, if you will, for business to talk about nature.
It's called the TNFD. That's short for the Task Force on Nature-Related Financial Disclosures. Now, its goals sound simple, but it's a massive undertaking. Give every organization a clear, standard way to report on their nature-related risks, their impacts, and what they depend on.
The best way to wrap your head around this is to think about it like regular financial accounting. We have standard rules like GAAP or IFRS that let us look at a company's books and understand if it's healthy. The TNFD is trying to do the exact same thing, but for nature. It's creating a set of rules so we can understand a company's nature health.
And this quote from them really hits the nail on the head. They want to take those 3,000-plus metrics and boil them all down to a small, manageable set of indicators. A set that can be compared across companies and, this part is absolutely crucial, can be independently verified. It's all about moving from chaos to clarity.
So how is the TNFD actually building this common language? What does it look like in practice? Let's pop the hood and take a look inside their toolkit.
First thing they did was create two levels of disclosure. You've got your core metrics. These are the absolute must-haves, the essentials that every single organization should be reporting on. And then you have additional metrics, which, as the name suggests, are recommended to give a more complete picture, depending on what the company actually does.
And they built in this really smart, really practical rule for those core metrics. It's called comply or explain. Basically, it means a company has to report on them unless they can explain why it's not relevant to their business or maybe they just can't measure it yet. It's a great balance of being tough while also being realistic.
The framework also splits things into two different scopes. You've got global metrics, which apply to everyone from a bank in New York to a software company in Seoul. But then you also have sector metrics, which are specifically tailored to industries like mining or agriculture because, let's be honest, their impact on nature is way different.
And here it is, the magic number. Out of that swirling chaos of over 3,000 different metrics, the TNFD has managed to distill it all down to just 14 core global metrics. Just 14. These are the foundational measurements that apply to every company, everywhere.
And those 14 indicators are neatly organized into two key buckets. As you can see, 9 of them are all about dependencies and impacts.
That's the stuff about how a company affects nature and what it relies on from nature. The other 5? They focus on risks and opportunities, which is about how nature can affect the company's bottom line. See, it's a two-way street. One looks out, the other looks in.
Now, the TNFD is also very realistic. They know that for some really complex areas, like measuring the overall state of nature, the science is still catching up. So for those, they've created what they call placeholder indicators. It's basically their way of saying, look, we know this is important, we're working on it, and for now, just report what you can.
Okay, so we've got a framework, we've got metrics, we've got a bunch of numbers. But why does any of this actually matter in the real world?
Well, the power of finally having a common language is just immense. For the first time, it lets investors compare apples to apples and hopefully put their money into companies that are doing better. It forces companies themselves to look in the mirror and manage their own risks. And maybe most importantly, it creates real accountability. It aligns what businesses do with big global environmental goals.
In the end, it really all comes down to this one simple truth. For way too long, nature has been invisible in the language of business. By putting it right there on the balance sheet, we make it visible, we make it valuable, and we make it absolutely impossible to ignore.
So I'll just leave you with this final thought to chew on. Imagine for a second if every single business on this planet had to clearly and publicly account for what it takes from nature and what it owes back. How profoundly do you think that would change our world?
If you found this interesting, you know what to do. Go ahead and like, share, and subscribe for more stuff just like this.